Hi there, my name is Denny, and welcome to the Speak Dicely podcast, the show where I get together with other tabletop enthusiasts and we speak dicely together. We're nearing the end of our exploration into the classes of Dungeons & Dragons, and today's is perhaps the most controversial of the 5th edition role-playing game. And this isn't due to the class having anything socially problematic, rather it was viewed as having needed many mechanical improvements and adjustments. As for the class itself, the lone hunter with the skills to survive in the wilds is a fan favorite. And with the tweaks brought on by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, we are happy to see that the Ranger is now getting the attention it truly deserves. And for today's discussion of the Ranger class, I am joined by Adrian Kieda and Michael Piscitelli. Hey there, folks.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good. Happy to be here.
Good. It's morning, so...
Any finishing to that thought?
No, it's just like, the morning feeling.
Gotcha.
Yes.
It is morning, therefore it is.
Therefore, that morning feeling. It's like, it's good.
For all you non-morning folk out there,
Are you going to finish that statement?
No.
What is happening?
If you're not a morning person, then you know. If you are, well, yeah.
So many sentences that are just ending. Oh, this is brilliant. It's great to have you both on the show. This is going to be chaos.
People know how they feel in the morning.
They
You
do.
don't need us to finish that sentence.
Oh, wow. It's very true. It's kind of like a end the sentence with your own emotions. Very, very allowing of the inserting of oneself. As almost... Listener out there, do you feel like you're part of today's podcast?
You should. You should always feel as if you can comment on whatever it is that you want to say, especially on YouTube, where there is a comment section. And you can actually trim it so that you have it as part of the what's the thing I'm looking for?
What is happening?
I don't know.
Oh, you can tag the time.
Mm.
So you can put your comment exactly where you think that comment should be. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh.
You're right. This is going to be pure chaos today.
That's all right. I'm happy to have you both in. And today we're talking about the Ranger class in D&D. And we've been talking about quite a few of these classes, and there's only this one and Bard left. And I imagine there's probably a few people out there who are very intrigued to hear our thoughts on the Ranger class, because this is kind of the controversial class of this edition of D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah, does it say something that Ranger and Bard were left till the end? Is it because no one wanted to talk about them?
I don't know about Bard, but I know I feel like I've heard somewhere that Ranger was definitely one that they just put very little thought into, and were like, well, we got to get the Ranger done for the book.
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast actively admitted that they put the least amount of thought into Ranger, and they actively apologized for it. And it's like, look, we're sorry. We should have done more. We're aware that it's a little bit janky, but hey, here's Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, where we fixed it a lot.
It is a viable class now. But I mean, there are also I've seen some people out there actively defending Player's Handbook Ranger, and I'm like, you know what? Kudos to you. I don't like it.
Okay, I understand why people don't like it, but at the same time, we're going to get more into this later on. If you have a DM that you've actively worked with and have talked about everything basically having to do with the campaign, in terms of setting and in terms of what kind of creatures you're going to be fighting, then yeah, the Player's Handbook Ranger is totally viable and can definitely work. It's just, you got to get real specific real fast, and I think a lot of people don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still think those features are useless, even if you know what's in the campaign.
I guess also depending on when this comes out, I think this is also our spooky episode, so happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah, happy
Halloween!
And the scariest topic of all today is Rangers.
Yeah. Rangers can be spooky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think that would be a really fun class, or a very fun character to play. Is just some sort of like, I don't know, how do you spookify a ranger? You know what? Before we do that, we should probably talk about what a ranger is.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
we're putting the cart before the horse.
That's right. You can't paint without the canvas.
I mean, you could. You can't paint without paint.
I mean, you usually get in trouble by mom and dad, so.
Or the authorities, depending on, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I didn't have to be a child in this metaphor.
No, you could have been a criminal.
Yeah, graffiti.
A child criminal.
All right. What is a ranger?
Rangers are typically described as defenders of nature, but also kind of more like keepers of civilization. Like they act as like the in-between of the absolute wild and everything scary and dangerous about it, and absolute urbanization, and maybe keeping that where it needs to stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They act as like a nice little wall that keeps those things from impinging on each other's territory.
I feel like rangers are just fighters that like trees.
You know what? That's pretty viable, actually. I've boiled them down to like a single word, and I just call them like hunters. Like, you know, they're technically part of civilization, but they live out in the wilderness, you know? Mm-hmm. And they tend to be solitary. But Michael, I think you brought up a great point. There's this inherent like wild versus civilization trope that kind of lives within them, and they're protectors of civilization without being right involved with it.
Mm-hmm. As part of my research, I was making a ranger the other day. I got inspired by I was listening to the Feats podcast, and I got inspired by your like Minotaur stuff you were talking about, and I came across like the City Watch background, and it was all about like, oh, you're basically like the police. I'm like, this isn't a ranger. This is not for a ranger. This is somebody who actually lives in civilization. A ranger isn't necessarily going to be doing that.
Yeah, in terms of like if we're talking like alignment, I feel like I wouldn't consider ranger lawful.
At least chaotic, if not neutral. Because like I would think that a ranger would be someone that has like their own set of rules that they would follow.
Yeah,
they're definitely not lawful. I feel like they don't care at all what's happening in government. That's not their thing.
Yeah.
Although you say that, but lawful doesn't necessarily mean they follow the rule of law. It could mean that they have a specific set of rules they follow, but not necessarily, and that would then lead into whether those rules are like lawful good is typically considered rule of law. But like, hey, you could play a lawful evil ranger and still be, or lawful neutral ranger and still like have those set of rules, like don't stick your head in a bear trap, don't antagonize the jaguar. Like those kinds of rules, but still not necessarily be like, I don't know, somebody that gives a crap about urban laws and things like that.
Right. I usually, when I think about like law in alignment, I usually equate it to like governmental law, and I consider like chaos more like a like just freedom to do your own thing. So I feel like any character in that law to chaos spectrum can have a code. Part of that code could be not to have any rules, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, rangers. So they're living out on the fringes. People typically view them as like nature respecting fighters, typically bow users or dual blades using. They know medicinal plants, druid magic. They're great guides.
Just a low-level druid that's got lots of levels in fighter.
Yeah, they're just a weird cross between druid and fighter.
Well, then by that same thing, you could argue that paladin's just a weird cross between a cleric and a fighter.
Well, you know, I was actually just about to say that, and I do agree with that statement.
Oh, God.
In any case. Ranger.
Yeah, Rangers are fighters, but instead of finding religion, they discovered
Nature.
the woods, the nature.
They got lost in the woods.
Oh my god, all Rangers are failed paladins?
Okay. Sure.
They just never made it to orientation. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Got lost on the way to orientation. And that's how they find their conclave.
Yeah.
About other lost paladins that didn't find their way home.
Oh, poor Ranger. Ooh. Yeah, so they typically they live on the land, so they're like experts of the natural terrain. Like we said, they have this association with druids. They don't always have to, but in the background there kind of is an association.
They're more willing to work with each other than, say, like, I don't know, a wizard and a druid.
Well, going back to clerics and paladins again, it's that same kind of synergy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they kind of pair up in that way, just because of the foundation of their belief, I guess. And
another parallel could be fighters and wizards just being like, I haven't decided if I want to go religious or natural, or just like stay academic and just be happy with what I got.
They're just atheist.
Yeah. We have nature, religion, and atheism.
Wizards? Is that what you guys are saying? That wizards are all
Wizards.
atheists?
I mean, they don't have to be, but
with a W, not lizards with an L.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I figured that.
I know, but like you've given us such great things as like fluid druid and lizard wizard. I was just checking.
It's true.
I thought the W comment was on atheist. I was like, there's no W in atheist.
Atheist, but with a W.
Watheist. Adrian, do you have anything more to add on, like, what is a ranger?
Nope. I think they're super straightforward. They're your fighters, but they like the forest, or maybe whatever other nature thing. It's always forest for me. I think that's a stereotypical one. Rangers are from the woods, but they could be from the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Or the tundra.
Or
grasslands. Or I would even argue that you could make a ranger that would be like underwater, or even like a sailor.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah, I guess so.
A sailor ranger would be really cool.
I agree. Like, why didn't we have that in our pirate campaign?
I don't know. Well, I think I was so caught up in the idea of being an archdruid, and Adrian was caught up on the idea of just being a cleric.
And I did want to be a gunslinger.
Like Dallas could have multi-classed into ranger instead of fighter. And same goes for Matt. He could have gone into like ranger instead of whatever the like 4 classes or whatever he multi-classed into.
Yeah, the reason no one played ranger in that campaign is because Logan's campaigns are very hard, and Tasha's wasn't out at the time, and so the traditional ranger would have died.
Yeah.
That's true.
Very fast.
Yeah, you know what? Good point. But something else that rangers are typically known for is they have a specialization in the environment that they're from, but also they have a creature quarry. So there's like a special type of creature that they are very knowledgeable about. And it's almost like the game kind of paints it like you have like an obsession with these creatures, whether that's to like just study them or you actively hunt them down.
and that even goes more into the conclave that you go into at 3rd level, which we'll get to later. Because there's some conclaves that deal with extraplanar creatures, and then there's others that are more like, I'm gonna fight this bear. Well, and others that are just like, hey, you giant thing, fight me.
Also, you keep saying conclave. I don't feel like I've ever heard that described for its subclass.
Yeah, what's a conclave?
Really? It's in. I'm positive it's in like the player's handbook.
Their third level subclass is just called Ranger Archetype. They're solitary typically, right?
Well, kinda. Huh.
Well, while you're looking that up, perhaps we can talk about some pop culture characters who might be equivalent or at least kind of parallel to the idea of what a ranger in D&D is. Did any of you guys have any ideas of characters like that?
So I was doing a little bit of research the other day, and I came across a Reddit thread, and one of the things people mentioned was that the Doctor from Doctor Who is a ranger. I'm like, what? How?
Why?
Well, so this is kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier about I'm going to keep using conclave because that's what I've gone off of for most of my life. One of the conclaves is all about dealing with extraplanar creatures, and they said, well, they're kind of like explorers. So the Doctor explores time and space and actively protects the universe from these like extraterrestrial entities that are actively trying to destroy Earth or like harm his companions. And for those of you who are listening to this via podcast and not seeing the YouTube, Denny's just had like the mind face.
What can I say? If you're not watching this on YouTube, you're missing. I am very animated.
Really is.
Wow. That, you know what? I was skeptical, but you know what? I'm convinced that that is a good example.
Because he's an explorer. He and with the one season sheet, the Doctor is someone who goes all over the place and is very like. I just thought it was such a cool comparison. Another one I kind of thought about as well as like being a protector of like from like. I keep going back to this. I really want to be. I can't remember what the actual archetype is. We'll talk about it later, but I really want to be that one just because you can get teleport powers.
One of them lets you teleport?
Yeah. We'll get to it in a bit.
Oh, is it the Fey one, or they drop into the Feywilds and then drop back?
I think so.
That sounds like appropriate.
I feel like, yeah, there's a high level thing where they like, I think it's just Misty Step though. They flavor it where you drop into the Feywilds, then Misty Step back, but you can take someone with you or something.
Yeah. We'll figure it out when we get to it.
But
Another
also
one.
with the Doctor Who thing, he also always has an animal companion. They just happen to be human.
Well, because they're not the same species. They're a different animal.
Exactly.
Oh my
They're always going to
God.
be a different animal. And
Oh
hey, there's at one point when
God.
he has like, a lizard lady as well. So like,
True.
And he always has a special tool that he uses to do everything.
Like, yeah, he's terrible at combat.
You were terrible at combat, Adrian. I was
amazing.
doing heavy damage all the time. Thank you very much.
Man, that opens up a whole bag of beans. If the Doctor can have a human as their animal companion, then can a lizard folk have a human as their animal companion?
I would say yes.
The thing is, they can never like be higher than CR like 1 or 2 or something like that.
Just get a commoner.
Yeah,
perfect.
I love that idea. I just want to play a lizard folk that has a commoner as their animal companion, because they're technically an animal.
Oh wow! Are there any other examples?
I was going to say the Power Rangers as a gag, but like they kind of do the power. Yeah, like they kind of do. They even have animal companions that they ride in, and then connect with each other to make one giant animal companion.
I don't know if that counts.
Their mecha suit?
Yeah.
I feel like they're more akin to like artificers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I guess.
I appreciate the Rangers though.
There was one, I think it was like Wild Force or whatever it was called, where they were actual like technically animals that turned into giant robots.
Yeah, that was a weird series.
That was one of my favorite ones. That and the wizard one.
What?
Magic Force.
Oh,
they were wizards.
I did not watch that one.
It came out like I think we were actually in university or something like that when that one came out. So that would probably be why.
Yeah.
I just got really excited by it because magic.
That's fair.
But anyway, other
This just came to mind as like just thinking about animal companions, but what about Finn and Jake from Adventure Time? Kind of Finn being the ranger and Jake being the animal companion.
Yeah, I could see that.
I love it. Yes, I love it.
I feel like that totally makes sense.
Another one was people would say like Jon Snow from a Game of Thrones is considered like a ranger. He's more of the like, not necessarily he even has his wolf friend, but he has all the fighter qualities, but like the respect for nature. I wouldn't know. I didn't watch Game of Thrones.
Neither did I. Unfortunate.
I feel like the other thing that I always like, the reason I play Ranger in general, I usually just play the Beastmaster because I think that's so fun. But I think that the Beastmaster Ranger is the closest you can get to playing a Pokemon trainer in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, it's true.
Not like super accurate, but the closest you can get to having an animal companion you can share a bond with and go battle people.
Well, that and like the Battlesmith Artificer.
That's true. Now that Artificer is so dope. Now
Yeah.
you can have a metal. That's more like, I don't know if
Okay, but with that one you can have a bag of holding and then just whoop.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely you can.
Two very, very, very close ways of being a Pokemon trainer.
Yeah. In one example, you just have I guess there's some metal Pokemon. It's totally true.
Oh yeah.
There's the steel type.
There's the whole steel type. There's
lots of
you'd play an Artificer. You'd be a steel type trainer.
And I guess a ranger would be a normal type trainer.
Well, we can do normal
Flying.
Oh yeah.
Grass.
Water.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the other thing with the Artificer, and we can talk about this later, but that's so cool, and that also makes it more like a Pokemon trainer, is now, especially in Tasha's, you get access to all the summoning spells. So you have so many random things that you can summon that you can consider to be different types of Pokemon.
Just all of them can be bears.
And all of them can be bears.
Well, we'll hear more about bears in a bit, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to throw some quick examples out here with quick justifications. So on my list, I've thrown in John Wick. He's a vicious fighter, and he's an efficient tracker and survivalist.
Yeah.
Katniss Everdeen, is very stereotypical. Like, she's a marksman, survivalist, and as far as I'm aware, I haven't actually watched the movies, but has like a connect and respect for nature.
At the very least, in the very first book and the very first movie, because I never went past either of those.
Right.
She's a very skilled tracker, a very skilled hunter. She is also like an excellent marksman. Like I think in the book she even like went immediately to the bow and arrow archery range and just like essentially Robin Hooded like the bullseye like a bunch of times in front of all of the like judges, and you're like, what?
I suppose there could also be a debate for Robin Hood to be on that list as well.
I've heard a similar debate, but a lot of people have said like, he's more rogue than a ranger.
I'd agree with that.
Just because of the way he's sneaky, but he's not so much the respect for nature and more of the like disrespect for the patriarchy.
Yeah, he's definitely a laws breaker. That's good point. Mm-hmm. I've also thrown, and the next couple of examples have appeared on this podcast before. I think it was in the fighter episode specifically. So Aragorn, of course, his fighting style is very reminiscent of fighters, but a lot of his like non-combat tends to be, it makes him feel very traditional ranger, and I think this class was actually inspired by him as well. So like,
yeah, that's what a lot of people say as well. And who's the elf?
Legolas.
Legolas.
Lot of people.
Lego.
I also have not watched. There's a lot of media I should watch, and
people should really watch Lord of the Rings if you haven't seen it.
People have been giving me shit for that for so long. Like
Michael.
I know. It's just every time I try to watch Lord of the Rings, it's with other people who've seen it a million times and they talk through the whole freaking thing.
Don't do that. Go watch it on your own.
I know. I'm going to watch it with Matthew, I promise.
Is he going to talk through it?
No, I've sworn him to silence when we watch this movie.
But yeah, so Aragorn's got like a knowledge of medicinal herbs. He's a tracker, a survivalist, and we see that a lot in those movies. He understands environment, terrain. When we see him, he's very much a solitary person, and he has a special favored enemy. Like as most of the characters tend to, they're very good at killing orcs.
Well, yeah, because those are just the main bad guys.
Yeah, so everybody's kind of has that favored enemy, but yeah, it is what it is.
I feel like Aragorn is an example of how to play a ranger. If you love the idea of ranger, it's the best idea of how to play a ranger with just a player's handbook content. You just play a fighter, but thematically you make your character a ranger.
Oh.
I mean, it is a fair point.
Is this just going to be us ripping on Ranger and just being like, go play a fighter the whole time?
No,
there is viability in the class.
We'll love it when we talk about the other stuff.
The last example being Geralt of Rivia from The Witcher. Again, it was another example that we kind of described as a fighter, but this guy has the ability to use magic. He's a monster hunter, stays on the fringes of society, and he's again a tracker and survivalist. So
I think that might be one of the main things is that they have to be good at tracking.
Yeah,
for them to be considered like part of the whole ranger dealio.
Right,
because if they're not, then you're just a fighter.
That's why I tend to boil ranger down to like hunter as a single word description. Like they are a person who is a survivalist, who knows how to navigate and how to track. Like they have survival skills. That's the big thing. All right. Well, so hopefully folks out there, you have an idea in your head of what a ranger is. We're going to take the next little bit here to go through all the features the ranger's going to have. And a lot of the past D&D class episodes, we've skipped over the Tasha's content, but this one, we're going to do the player's handbook stuff first, and then afterward talk about the Tasha stuff, because I feel like Tasha's was basically made for revised races and fixing Ranger.
Like, yeah.
Because
there's so many like core Ranger features that get completely replaced and completely done over in Tasha's that it's a very different class.
Oh yeah.
Like very different.
So so we'll each take turns level by level describing the features that are there. We can stop and talk about anything that's like good or bad. And
we'll each take turns? I need my notes, guys.
Oh, Adrian, there he goes.
Adrian, wait. Okay, maybe. Oh, there he is. That was a lot shorter than I anticipated.
I know. I was expecting him to be gone for a few minutes, but he was up and back. It was like, wow.
Yeah, my apartment's very small. There isn't very many places to go and get stuff.
There are crabs too, right? Or do you still have the crabs?
No, there's no more crabs.
Oh.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure affirmatively there's no more crabs in my apartment.
Okay, because the last time you said that, you ended up finding one dusty in a corner.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, there was a crab that was just wandering my apartment for a while, and
like a few
I'm
months.
not going to elaborate on that.
It was a few months, wasn't it?
That crab was a ranger.
That crab was a ranger.
Or
not the lands.
Or it was a druid that just was like, I like this place, but I don't want to leave. I should just turn back into the crab for a little while.
Oh boy. Hasn't been paying rent, that cheating ranger. Or that cheating druid.
Druid ranger would actually make a very good like multi-class.
Oh, I mean, it makes sense for sure. Have an animal companion turn into an animal. Great, you're a pack.
Be your own animal companion.
Oh, that's so fun. Now you're two bears or two crabs.
You were already.
Your star sign is Gemini. That's your whole character now.
Yes.
What a great concept. Oh my gosh.
Wait. Two rangers that are also druids that take turns being the animal companion, and they're twins.
That's
funny.
cute.
Oh, these are great. Okay, let's talking mechanics. All right.
Okay.
So, if you want to be an effective ranger, your dexterity should be your highest ability score. Wisdom should be your next highest ability, as it makes your magic score or your magic abilities more effective. But as per usual, these are just recommendations. So perhaps we'll go. I'll take the first level, and then we'll go Adrian, Michael, and then we'll just kind of cycle around like that again, eh?
Sure. Are we just reading these?
Not word for word. Otherwise, that's just straight up plagiarizing.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
Yeah.
So, at first level in the player's handbook, you have an ability called Favored Enemy and Natural Explorer. And what these things are for Favored Enemy is basically you choose a creature type, or you choose 2 humanoid types. So, like, there's like a list of monster types in the monster manual. I'm not going to read them all out for you.
Basically, if you know the whole list of monster types, you got access to that.
Things like undead or celestials and stuff like that. So with this feature, you are knowledgeable about that creature type. You have advantage when trying to track them, and you know one language that creatures of that type would be able to speak. In addition, you get an additional creature type and language at 6th and 14th level. This feature sucks. Natural Explorer. Sorry, Ranger, I gotta lay off. Okay, let's keep going. Natural Explorer. This is basically the same thing as Favored Enemy, except for it's for the land. So you choose a terrain type, like we were talking about, stereotypical forest or desert, mountains, whatever. And you have double your proficiency on intelligence and wisdom saves, on checks for intelligence and wisdom while you're in that terrain. And then if you're traveling for at least an hour in that favored terrain, you are not slowed by difficult terrain. You cannot become lost except by magic. You can remain alert. You can scout quickly. Foraging gives you double the amount of food it normally would, and you have heightened tracking abilities. You get to choose an additional terrain type at 6th and 10th level. And there are reasons why this is all bad. I'm going to talk about this in the critique section. That takes us to 2nd level. Adrian, if you want to take us away with that.
Sure. You level up to 2nd level. Bam. You get to choose your fighting style. Originally, the only fighting styles that I remember mattering were archery and 2-weapon fighting, but apparently there's also defense and dueling. I don't even know what those are, probably because I've never looked at them or played them. But then in Tasha's, and you just wrote this down here, so I will bring it up, they add more fighting styles, including blind fighting, which I think is fucking amazing, and then Druidic Warrior, which I think is also amazing. That's the one that lets you choose cantrips, right, from the Druidic list. That one's so cool. And then Thrown Weapon Fighting is also listed on here, and I don't think I've seen that, but it sounds cool.
Yeah.
And then you also get access to spellcasting finally, and I think originally in the player's handbook, your list of spells were pretty tiny.
Known spells. Narf.
Yeah, I'm as everybody knows, I am not a fan of known spells. I have made a note. Rangers are half casters, and they have known spells.
And if you want an argument for known spells, go check out the Sorcerer podcast that I'm also on.
It's stupid and bad, and I don't like them.
I had a lot to say on the matter.
Define known spells for me.
So in D&D, there are prepared spells, which are you have a certain number of spells you can prepare in a day equal to your spellcasting modifier plus your level in the class.
Yeah.
Whereas classes like Sorcerer, Bard, and Ranger, I think this makes sense for. It's just like at this level, you can know this many spells, and those are the only spells you'll know during that level. And I don't like the inflexibility of that.
But at the same time, we mentioned this in the other podcast, I think the whole point is that you need to be good at a thing and then and then it makes a compelling character to have weaknesses. Like, okay, they're able to misty step a lot and they're able to be very quiet. But then on the other hand, that means that they're not necessarily going to be the person that's dealing all the damage.
Yeah, but I want the thing I'm good at to be magic.
I'm kind of for known spells, but we can argue about that later.
And I will always argue about it.
We can argue about it later. But then last thing, so you get spellcasting, and I just want to say, and then in Tasha's, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, you get access to a bunch of other really fun spells, which are, I think, my favorite spells the Rangers get, the ones they added.
Yeah, they did need more spells for their list for sure. But that being said about known spells too, I think it makes sense for a Ranger. They're not known as a spellcaster. It makes sense that they're just like, these are the magics I know. It's like, it's great. I do like it for Rangers.
They're like the extra powers that you just kind of have, that they're not your main gimmick.
Yeah. Michael, you're taking us on to level 3.
All right, moving up to level 3. I don't know where I got the word conclave from. I'm pretty sure it came from like the Unearthed Arcana stuff, but like third level, you get Primeval Awareness, which means you can use a spell. You can expend a spell slot to sense creatures within 1 mile or 6 miles on your favorite terrain. It doesn't reveal the location or how many, and it can be active for a number of minutes equal to the spell slot expended. And the idea is that you're basically just trying to track the general idea, or if there are any, of like your favorite enemy, for example.
Mm-hmm. But the creature types aren't all the creature types. It is a very specific set of creatures that aren't natural.
Yes. So basically anything that's not like a beast or humanoid, essentially. Well, and even then, like the fays and fiends and undead can be considered humanoids, but like things that are not of this world and should not be, essentially.
Yeah.
At the same time, you also get your Ranger archetype, which I have always thought that they were called conclaves, because if you think about it, that how is that Ranger going to necessarily learn what it is that they do
from one person?
From one person,
their master.
Or their dad.
Or the dad.
Or their dad. Or their animal dad.
Their animal dad.
As the case, one very specific Ranger. The player's handbook gives us the Hunter, which is a specialist in swiftly defeating a single foe or weaker group, like little mobs in their groups. And the Beastmaster, which we've been talking about a lot. Because apparently that's our favorite one. Everyone loves Beastmaster.
It's so fun.
Which they get to fight along a beast's companion of their choosing. Xanathar's Guide to Everything introduced 3 other ones: the Gloomstalker, the Horizon Walker, and the Monster Slayer. The Gloomstalker is basically somebody who's all about being sneaky in the darkness. If something has dark vision, for example, and a Gloomstalker is in the dark, they can't be seen by the thing with dark vision, which I think is really cool. I made one as part of my research, and he's fun. And then Horizon Walker, which is what we were talking about earlier with protecting from otherworldly beings like the Doctor. They're protects against entities from beyond the mundane realm and the passages into other worlds.
I wonder if the Doctor did inspire that subclass. Now that you've brought that up,
it might have. I wouldn't be surprised. Since his whole shtick is like exploration and protecting of others. That's it. And then Monster Slayer, they fight against the supernatural. So more akin to like Van Helsing. He would be a good example of a Ranger, because he's all about tracking down monsters and slaying them. Another one I just thought of, although he could argue he's a paladin. Oh no, it was a Netflix series. The spellcaster Sypha and the vampire.
Castlevania.
Yes, what's his name?
Trevor Belmont.
Trevor Belmont. Yes. Trevor Belmont could even arguably be considered a monster slayer. Because their whole deal is fending off dark beings and monsters that most people wouldn't dare to try. And then Tasha's Cauldron of Everything gave us the Fey Wanderer that we briefly mentioned earlier, that they have a connection to the Feywild. And they use that connection to disappear and reappear in other places and beguile and terrify their foes. And the Swarm Keeper, which also has a connection to the Feywild in that they summon a swarm of some kind, whether it be like Fey bees, or in the case of a friend of mine, she had a swarm of raccoons that one had butterfly wings because you learn the mage hand cantrip with the Swarm Keeper, and the mage hand takes the form of whatever it is that your swarm is. So like,
right.
Oh, that's so cool.
If you had a swarm of birds, then it would be like a couple birds going over and picking something up and bringing it to you. Or in the case of my raccoon friend, a Fey raccoon with butterfly wings that just kind of goes over and grabs things with his tiny grabby hands.
I love that. I'm sorry, that's crab hands. What did you just say?
Tiny grabby hands.
Oh, grabby hands.
Raccoon hands.
A raccoon with butterfly wings and crab hands.
That's a monster.
It's terrifying.
Man. I've got a chance to play Swarm Keeper, but I love that subclass. It just sounds so cool thematically.
I do too. I really want to play it. And as with any subclass, you get when you choose it at 3rd level, you get additional features at 7th, 11th, and 15th level.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to continue calling them conclaves because, like, that's it's a word I came across and it makes sense. It's the only thing that says archetype. Every other, like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm thinking of druids.
That I was going to say, it does. I think that is a druid thing.
That's a druid word?
I believe so. I mean, their subclasses are technically called circles, but there is conclaves associated with druid circles, I believe, in terms of like lore.
I don't know. That's the word I'm going to use because it sounds better than archetype, considering literally every other class has like Path of the Beast, Way of the Open Fist. Like those are all the archetypes, but they're not called archetypes. They're called a thing.
Fighters at 3rd level have their subclass called martial archetype. Anyway, at 5th level,
this is the hill that Michael dies on.
I am dying on this hill. I don't care.
You can call it whatever you want as long as you're doing your.
I just want to say, I was reminded of another cool, maybe pop culture reference. Maybe it's a little bit more obscure, but if you've seen Naruto, there's the ninja that I don't understand how their character works at all, but they're basically just a cloak and then a head, and then their whole body is just like insects. They were in the shows, I think, since the very beginning. And
really?
they just explode insects from their body and like manipulate things with them. And like, that's how they attack. And they are a swarm. It's very cool.
Okay.
Wow.
Swarm Keeper.
Huh. 5th level, I get the easy one. You get extra attack. You get to attack one more time when you use the attack action. Woo.
Another easy one. 6th level, your favorite features from level 1, your favorite enemy and natural explorer features, you get to choose more of those.
7th level gives you
8th level.
a type, but then 8th level gives you land stride, where you're not affected by non-magical difficult terrain, including dense foliage, and plants that are non-magical don't hurt you. But when it comes to magical plants, you have advantage against them, and you have advantage against any saves that are required that are meant to impede your movement. You still are probably going to get hurt by them because, magic, but you are less likely to be able to get royally screwed over by them. Indeed. Like the rest of your party.
And that's what we want in D&D design, is the ability to keep moving further away from the rest of your party.
Right, Adrian?
I wasn't even in part of this game. Apparently I made an accidental jab.
No, you
designed to run away. That's
you were for a little while.
Going to 10th level, once again, you get that lovely natural explorer where you get to choose an additional and your final terrain type. And then the additional thing you get at 10th level is hide in plain sight, which is you spend a minute camouflaging yourself with using natural material. You get a plus 10 stealth bonus as long as you've pressed yourself up against something that looks the same and you don't move or take any actions. And once you do take an action or move, you must do the minute of camouflaging again to do it again. And it's... Nope, I'm not going to say it. I'm laying off the ranger. It's fine.
Oh my god.
I love reading your notes, Teni, and just seeing one 4-letter word all in caps.
It's dumb.
It's dumb. It's really dumb. Tasha's fixes this with an incredible ability. It's so good that I use this every chance I got, but it's so stupid.
And it's so simple too, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, this is like a joke. Like hide and play sight. Like, did a child write?
And like 10th level too? Really? It's so lackluster for such a high level ability.
Like, there was one part of the Hunger Games I did watch, and I feel like this was they watched the same moment and they were like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm like, it's so much time for stillness.
So much effort.
Anyone can do that. Anyone can just do that.
Like, PETA, I think we're talking about the same one. PETA with his like cake decorating skills is just like, yeah, I made myself look like a log.
That's the exact moment I'm talking about. Yeah,
that takes so much time and effort. Like anyway.
Adrian, would you like to give us 14th?
Oh, great. Sorry, I'm still busy bashing hide in plain sight in my mind. Great. So now that you've had that amazing 10th level upgrade, you're going to wait until you get to level 14 for your next one. You get another favorite enemy. So now you have 3 enemies that are your favorite obsessions of your natural terrain. And then you also get Vanish, which just lets you hide as a bonus action. And you also, it says here, you can't be tracked by non-magical means, which I guess is cool.
Like, it doesn't come up very often that you as a party are being tracked. So like, I feel like some of these abilities were geared. There's a lot of things with the player's handbook version of Ranger that I think would be more akin to being a DM PC or even just a regular NPC as a Ranger.
Yeah, don't most classes gain the ability, not most, but aren't there classes that gain the ability to hide as a bonus action at like level 2?
Yeah, Rangers, I believe. Sorry, Rogues.
Rogues. Okay,
level 1. Wait, or is it level 2?
It is level 2 with cutting action.
Okay, but still.
Yeah.
In any case, at 18th level, you get a fantastic ability. Feral Senses. This is one of the few like player's handbook ones that like stayed put because they're great. You don't have disadvantage attacking creatures that you can't see, and you can sense an invisible creature within 30 feet of you unless it's hidden from you or you're blinded or deafened. So basically, if you're fighting invisible stuff, you're not fighting invisible stuff. You're just fighting them normally.
Cool.
Yeah, and then the 20th level capstone ability you get with being a ranger is Foe Slayer, and what this is once per turn you can add your wisdom modifier to an attack or damage roll you make against your favored enemy. And you get to choose to add that either before or after the roll. But before effects are applied. It's
an okay ability. If you only have like a +2 to wisdom, then like okay. I feel like that's more for somebody who has like spent the time to make sure that they have like high dex and high wisdom or high strength, for example, if they decided to go the strength route because you can do a dex or a strength ranger. Either works. As long as you have the wisdom to back it up.
Yeah.
Even if your wisdom is at +5, what are you adding? Your wisdom modifier? So you just get an extra 5 damage at 20th level to only your favorite enemies?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Once per turn.
I mean, it's not as far as 20th level goes. I don't know if it's like a lot of damage to be adding. And I guess like if you consider like, let's say you've spent the entire 20th level going full ranger. You've maximized your dex. You maximize your wisdom. You're not adding your +5 dex anymore. You're adding your +10 wisdom dex, which it's pretty nice still. If you're going for like, I want to hit hard in a combat.
Yeah, like that's kind of the problem that I have with it, is that it's very one track minded in terms of like a 20th level capstone. Because like I think you mentioned it in the Paladin podcast, and I agree with it. The 20th, I feel like 20th level should be something that's gained from your archetype as opposed to just being the class feature. Because like paladins all get like a specific thing at 20th level from their archetype, and it's real. They're all really, really cool and really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish they would have done that for more classes. I think that's maybe that's a homebrew thing I got to do. It's just like add a 20th level ability to every subclass and be like, you can either take your class's 20th or your subclass's 20th.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea, but it would also be a lot of work.
That's fine. I've got nothing else to do. I've got free time out the wazoo.
Coming soon, Denny's compendium of 20th level features.
Michael, you might be onto something. I can work with that.
If you want help with that, I would gladly lend my assistance.
Well, before we start creating and publishing a book, perhaps let's talk about Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which is already published and created.
Can I just bring something up with this foe slayer thing that I just thought of?
Sure.
So, and this might not make sense thematically for your character, but if your final level, if all you're getting is an extra 5 damage to just your favorite foes, if you can fit it in thematically, why not take that final level and just dip 1 level into Genie Warlock, which gives you your proficiency bonus added damage to your first attack on your turn anyways. Now you get +5 to all enemies.
Wait, what? That's what the Genie does?
Yeah, first level Genie Warlock, you get plus equal number of damage equal to your proficiency bonus to your first attack on your turn. It is of a certain element, depending on the Genie you take,
right?
But it's already better than Foe Slayer.
Oh my god, that's so good!
Oh wow, no, okay. And now I'm no longer surprised that you decided to take that as part of your character.
Oh, that's such a good idea, Adrian.
Instantly better. Now you're a warlock too, which is fun.
I wonder if that's something that they like actively thought of, like, maybe people are gonna like only dip into ranger, and we'll just like make this a throwaway sort of thing, just because we know that they're never gonna get to 20th levels anyway. So it's like, all right, so it doesn't matter.
Well,
now I want to see this Genie thing done. That's a great idea.
Genie Ranger.
Love it. Adrian, we left off with you. Do you want to take us away with the first level of the optional Ranger class feature?
Sure. Let's take a look at them. So now this is Tasha's Cauldron and Everything, right? So these are the optional ones. And the way these work is you can take these if you want, right? It's like a choice.
Yeah, it's like it replaces the player's handbook features.
Okay. Cool. Right on. So at first level, your replacement for Natural Explorer, which is the one where you chose your favorite terrains, it's now called Deft Explorer. Don't know what the word deft means, but love that it's there.
It basically just means you're good at it.
Cool. You're a good explorer. And it looks like you get to choose one of 3 things.
Well,
nope, you get a different one per level.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I haven't done this one. So this is the first time I'm even reading it.
Ooh, this is fun.
Do you want me to read it?
Like I can read it. I'm learning it as I go. The first one says canny, and you get an expertise in one of the skills you're proficient in. That's so good.
Oh, and
that's awesome. You just get a free expertise. I love that. That is awesome. 6th level, you get
you also get two languages with that as well.
Oh, you just added that. I was like, I just saw it moving. You just added that to the doc.
I just realized I spelled 2 wrong.
Also awesome. And yeah, I might as well just talk about what you get at 6th level with the same feature. It's another thing called robing, where your walking speed increases by 5 feet at 6th level, and you get a climbing and swimming speed equal to your walking speed. That's awesome. And the final one, 10th level, is called tireless, and you get to give yourself temp HP as an action. You can do this as a number of times per long rest equal to your proficiency bonus. And you can reduce your exhaustion by 1 level after a short rest. These are amazing.
Right?
These are so much better than Natural Explorer. These are so useful.
I used, so we're going to get into this a little bit later, but I used tireless every chance I got. And oh boy, did it save my life on more than one occasion.
Yeah, I love those ones. There's so much, like it's astronomically better than that. They're so fun. Oh, yeah. They're good and they're fun. Then also there's a replacement for favorite enemy. Now it's called favored foe.
You get a lot. And
actually, so I have heard of this one before, and this just changes the way that you're, instead of choosing a favorite enemy that you have for the entire game, this time, every time you hit a creature, you can mark that creature as your favorite enemy, and that lasts for 1 minute until you lose concentration on that. But it's not a spell, it's just an ability. And the first time basically what it does is you deal extra damage to that enemy, and that's pretty much it. And the extra damage increases.
The concentration stipulation just basically means that you can only be one creature at a time.
Right. But it's not a spell, so you can have another spell going at the same time.
Oh, you know what? I don't think you could.
No,
so they add that because if you were able to do it, then you'd be able to have, so it's basically Hunter's Mark.
It sounds exactly like Hunter's Mark.
And so that would mean that if you could concentrate on another spell, you could have this plus Hunter's Mark at the same time.
Right, which would be awesome, but you can't do that because that's too big.
And I feel like they might have added this too because everybody was only using their Ranger spell slots for Hunter's Mark. So they're like, well, if you're going to use it so much, we might as well make it a feature instead of a spell.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, Hunter's Mark is amazing. And actually, this is cool because, the highest that this goes is a D8. How high does Hunter's Mark go? Is that a D6?
Yeah, it's only a D6. Right. It starts as a D6, and this one starts as a D4. But like as you gain levels, it gets to be up to a D8. But this also doesn't require your bonus action to use.
Oh damn! Oh, so it's just a part of the attack, it's a part of the hit.
So you hit, you mark them, deal the extra damage, and if you say used your bonus action to do something else that turn, you're not SOL.
Oh, I love that. That's so good.
Yeah, that is nice.
Combine that with a goblin and their I don't remember what the ability is called, but it's like they just add extra damage. Fury of the Small, that's what it's called. They add extra damage equal to your level. So combining those two together hits hard.
Goblin Ranger.
A little ranger.
We'll get to that in a bit.
Just a little bit. Michael, what second level Tasha's?
Second level, you get additional ranger spells. There's additional fighting style options that we already mentioned. And you can get the option of using a spellcasting focus for you can use a druidic focus for your spellcasting.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't originally include that.
I am too.
Yeah,
but
what do they use to cast spells?
Well, you just got to find the material goods, right?
Yeah, or like you just have a component pouch. But a lot of ranger spells are either vocal or somatic. Very few of them require any sort of like material component, and a lot of the time, if it does require a material component, it's either something extremely expensive, as with the case of the summoning spells, or something you can just find in nature.
Yeah,
like a piece of fleece, or an eggshell.
Yeah, that's true. Third level Primeval, the feature that was Primeval Awareness is replaced by Primal Awareness. They really made small changes to these names.
Someone, I bet you they were stumbling on the word primeval awareness, and they were like, "We got to take out the V and the E. That's got to go."
Primeval?
Oh, you know what? I was just about to say, even at this moment, I feel like I mispronounce it.
Primeval.
I don't need.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's like
that
medieval.
third level thing.
We're all happy they changed the name.
But yeah, so what Primal Awareness does is you get an additional free spell at certain levels that you can cast once a long rest without using a spell slot. So like at third level, you get Speak with Animals that you could just use for free. And I think at the higher end, I don't remember what level it is, but I think you get Speak with Plants. So you just get these communication with nature themed spells that you could just do once per day, which is
I
nice.
love that.
You get Speak with Plants, Locate Object, Locate Creature. What other locate thing?
I think there's only 4. Maybe there's 5 of them.
Anyways,
Those are super good because you don't have so many spell slots with the ranger, so it's cool that you can just kind of do those kind of like essential ranger things.
yes.
Oh, so Commune with Nature, Speak with Plants, Locate Creature, Beast Sense, and Speak with Animals.
Okay, and that was from upper end to lower end, right? Okay. Adrian, fourth. Oh, sorry, Michael.
Oh no, I was just saying I should just have my old my old character sheet open just so I can like refer back to it.
No worries. Adrian, fourth level Tasha's.
Sure. 4th level, something they've included with, I think, a bunch of the different classes. Now you have a versatility with whatever you chose at, what was it, 3rd level?
I think the fighting style was second level.
Second level? Great. So you can switch out your fighting style for another one, and you get to do that anytime you get an ability score improvement, which is super cool. You get to test them out. So I just feel like sometimes you choose a fighting style early on, and then like you do stuff with your character, and you're like you kind of have the archery fighting style, and you feel like you have to keep using bows because you have that fighting style, but you so badly want to do this other thing because like you discovered it or you found this other like cool thing that you can do, and now you can kind of switch them out, which I think is awesome.
And then a bunch of levels later, at 10th level, you get Nature's Veil, which replaces Hide in Plain Sight. Nature's Veil is fantastic. As a bonus action, you can turn invisible until the start of your next turn. And there's no concentration. You don't break your invisibility if you attack with anything. You just are invisible for the next 6 seconds. And you can use this a number of times per long rest equal to your proficiency bonus. So
I did not think about breaking invisibility. Oh my god.
So you can start of your turn, turn invisible, attack twice, and then run away, and people don't necessarily know where you are. It's great.
Freaking cool. It's like a cheap Misty Step.
Plus, you have advantage. Since you're invisible, you have advantage on all your attack rolls because they don't necessarily know where you are.
Is that true?
Yeah.
You get advantage on your attack rolls? That's
if you're invisible,
nuts.
yeah.
And they have disadvantage on attack rolls against you.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Oh gosh, when I read this, I was like, "Oh, they must have been inspired by the Furball ability." Like it makes sense. It did feel very rangery, but this just this is a big change.
So you just disappear. Ow! I just got hit by something. Reappear. Ha.
Yeah.
Disappear
That said,
again.
do you remember, Michael, that you did kill Lauren many times using that?
Yeah, that was mine.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
We'll talk. We say that a lot in these podcasts.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Speaking of which, we'll get to talking about character and roleplay in terms of Rangers right after we take a quick break here. Those were all the mechanics of the Ranger classes, including Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So hopefully you've learned something about the mechanics of Rangers, and we'll see you all in a bit to talk about our own Ranger characters. Hi there. Do you have a podcast you'd like to promote? How about sponsoring an episode of the Speak Dicely podcast? If you'd like to get in touch with me about including an ad during one of our episodes, contact Denny at dicelychannel@gmail.com. Now, back to the podcast. And hello again, everybody. We are back with Adrian and Michael, and we are talking about the Ranger class. And apparently there's one thing we kind of forgot to touch on about the added Tasha's Cauldron of Everything stuff. So, Adrian, you brought this up. Would you like to take us away with that?
Sure. I just, after all the Ranger stuff they added in Tasha's, they also changed the way that the Beastmaster works, which I think is also way better than it works in the original one. In the original one, you chose a beast based on challenge rating, and then it was this whole thing I had to like find a beast, and it took like forever. With the new one, they just have basically, it works the same way as the summoning spells they introduced in Tasha's, where you just have 3 stat blocks for, I think it's like a beast of land, air, or water. Mm-hmm. And then you can just summon a new one at the start of every single day, whatever you want to use that day. And then, so instead of having CRs, then you can just add your proficiency bonus or your level to like their HP and their attacks and all that. So it like scales with you naturally, which is way better than if you're like attached to having a bear companion. You don't have to like be stuck with, you know, a CR half black bear. They can scale up with you.
Yeah, that is nice.
And if you're attached to having a bear, you can have one with wings or one with a fishtail.
Oh,
that's true, because there is no rules to what your beast is. So you can, let's say it's going to be a beast of air, right? But maybe my beast of air, and maybe your DM will say, no, that's really dumb, but maybe my beast of air is going to be a bear that can fly.
Right, because basically at this point they're all just elemental spirits, so to say, and you can just flavor them however you want, right?
Yes, there are spirits, which is also great because they don't die on you, which maybe if you like that drama, then that's cool. But I like that they're just spirits, so you can just resummon them.
Yeah, Adrian had his companion die a lot, mostly because we ran out of like room on our airships, or Adrian wasn't there and we didn't really care what happened with his bear.
I just killed my animal companion so that there wasn't enough room on the airship.
Oh boy. All right. Well, so there's that big change as well, especially for a subclass that everybody seems to love to play. I'm glad they improved it. So now I gotta ask you guys. Well, I guess this is more of a tell than a full ask, but tell us about a ranger character that you've played, and what subclass did you pick if you got to that level?
So Adrian and I were fortunate enough to play 2 rangers in the same campaign together.
The same campaign. Time. And it was a good one because it was a campaign that went from 1 to 20.
Yeah. And although we played rangers at the same time, they were vastly different in terms of gameplay, in terms of personality, in terms of a whole slew of things. I chose the hunter conclave. I'm sticking with conclave. I chose the hunter because at the time this was like my 3rd or 4th character in this campaign. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna make something that I can like. This is just something super simple and like is a very, very classic sort of take on what a ranger is, but also story-wise, he's going to be the editor of his own newspaper. Because this campaign started with all of us working for a newspaper, and hilariously, the ranger Adrian was one of the original characters from the very beginning. Meanwhile, I went through like 3.
Never died.
I died a lot. That's just kind of a running thing that happens with most characters I play, is that they just die a lot. But yeah, I kind of kept the newspaper theme a little bit with this character. His name was Benvale Squeakright. He was a goblin and a ranger. And his whole shtick was that he wanted to connect all of the civilized places via information with a newspaper, because at the time we were in Eberron. He lived in the monster capital, and a lot of the monsters were just like, I don't give a flying crap about what's going on everywhere else. It doesn't affect me. Meanwhile, the Dalkir were basically trying to take over the world, and he wanted to stop these extraplanar creatures from, causing madness, insanity, and eyeballs to appear on people's bodies in various places where they're not supposed to. there was a fair amount of body horror in this campaign. I'm not going to get into it because that'll just like strike us right off YouTube. Yeah, the combination of Fury of the Small from Goblin with the Favored Foe is insane by 20th, because like it just adds your level to the damage. And at level 17, where I completely forgot to up that number for a very long time when we got to level 20, you just add all this extra damage, and it just feels so good because you're like, it's a base damage. There's no rolls involved. It's just like you're constantly going to be able to do this. Meanwhile, Adrian was hiding behind bears.
Yeah, same campaign from the very beginning. And this is before Tasha's, but when they first released I think it was the second version of the revised Ranger in Unearthed Arcana. So I really wanted to play that, and Nathan said I could do it, which is great because they took Beastmaster, they changed the whole thing, and they made it absolutely bonkers amazing. So I was playing a child named Lolek, and my animal companion was a black bear who was also my dad. He was a shifter. So my Lolek was a shifter. So he was part bear, part human, and his dad was a bear. And his mom didn't show up till the very end of the campaign, where it turned out that she was tracking him this whole time. And then it was time for, Lolek was 6 years old. It was time for him to go back to school. He was starting grade 1 or something. So he like ran away from home and had this whole adventure with his like drunk dad bear.
Oh yeah, this bear drank profusely all the time. Like, he was also kind of an abusive parent. Like he would put the beat down on Lolek all the time.
It was like the adventures of Lolek and his drunk, good for nothing dad bear. And the thing with this, and Lolek didn't do anything. Like no one even knew I was a ranger because I didn't have to do anything. I would just put my bear in the front lines. But what was so good about that version of the Beastmaster was that your bear didn't take up any of your actions. It had its own turn. It only ever got one attack. So I took the second attack away. You never got that, but you didn't need that. It always went after your turn. No, I think it actually rolled its own initiative. So it was just basically like its own separate character. So I just played Bolek, and then I originally used the original summoning spells from the player's handbook. Then Tasha's came out partway through, and I got those summoning spells. And those are controlled with your bonus action. And so the way I played this character was he would just sit back and hang out, usually like eat snacks. He's a 6-year-old child. And he would just watch as his dad and then his summons would do all the work. And I think I also got some other summons. I had like those totems that you can chuck out to summon. I think I had tricks so you can throw out animals.
You also had the Find Familiar spell at one point, and sweet Jesus, were your turns for freaking ever.
That's true. My turns were very long because I basically just found a way to have as many animal companions as possible. Any way that I could, any way I could summon something differently, I had them all. And then I would just sit back and just watch this. And they were all bears. So I'd only summoned bears was the whole thing. And they were all like cousins of mine. So like the main bear was my dad, but I had like my ghost grandpa. I would summon, it was like a fey bear. They had
named Ghost Grandpa Grolek.
Yeah. There was like a cousin. I had a polar bear I summoned at one point.
Olek.
Which was like my cousin from the north. It was great. I just sat back and did let these bears just have it.
There was your Find Familiar. He was a smaller version of one of our other characters, Matt Costin actually, who played Colonel Dent, that you called Dentlek.
That's true. True.
So there's cousin Kolek as well, who was I think a brown bear. So you had Lolek, Bolek, Kolek, Polek, Dentlek.
There was a lot. And I realized like the thing with this character was it was so fun to play. And I didn't really do like all I was using was all the summoning spells from Tasha. Is when I realized that if you can just get all the summoning spells, each one of them comes with 3 different things you can summon, and they're all extremely situational. So depending on the situation, you can summon something completely different that's super useful just for that encounter, which I think was super fun. And then I also had and then I started actually multiclassing as Warlock because I realized that if I wanted more summoning spells, I had to. Eventually, I got them all for Ranger, and so then I started getting like skeleton bears because I got all like the necrotic ones. I had a ghost bear, a zombie bear, and then eventually I got the summoned fiend, I think. And so I had my final joke of the campaign was I summoned a bear holder, which was a beholder bear.
What? A bear holder?
It was a bear holder. And that thing was amazing because it was, this is so specific, but just that's, I think it's Summon Fiend. It's like the Fiend version of the Tasha summoning spells. And I didn't realize, because I just summoned it for the joke, but I realized it was amazing because this thing can fly and then shoot beams up to 150 feet. And you can just do that as a bonus action. So it's just this like turret you have in the sky that can just like fire stuff for you.
It's funny considering a beholder is a aberration, so I'm surprised you're able to summon that.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
Oh, jeez. Freaking love that character.
That is amazing.
Adrian was an army of one. There was one point, basically he got to the point where if it was ever him versus us, he would win. And this campaign started with like 7 people in the party. Like we eventually ended up whittling it down to 4 in the party just because like people were busy, people had other things that they had to do. So it's like we're just gonna finish this campaign one way or another. God, that character was a freaking lion. You were a circus like entertainer.
I leaned into summon.
You really leaned into summons.
Wow. And you know, there's very few DMs who I'm sure would enjoy putting up with that. So that is good on Nathan.
I wouldn't say Nathan enjoyed it.
But
I would say he put up with it.
But hey, I mean,
People loved it.
We know Adrian. We know what he's going to be up to. So we're like, this is what we signed up for.
So
What you signed up for?
in Logan's current campaign, the character that I just that just died, his whole thing was like, oh, he's got all these tattoos of animals. And Logan's told me very explicitly, please, for the love of God, don't do what Adrian did. I'm like, no, don't worry. He's only ever going to summon one thing ever. And it'll be when he reaches level 6 in Sorcerer. He's level 3 in 3 right now. It's going to be a very long time before that happens. And now it's not going to happen because he's dead.
Okay. Well, also you also can't do that anymore. With Tasha's, your ammo companion only acts if you use your bonus action to let it act. But I guess you could still, because you could. I think it also has to use your main action to let it act. Because you can use, if you're not going to fight, you can just give your main action to your animal companion and still have a summon.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So
if you want to really lean into summoning,
apparently Ranger Warlock's the way to do it.
Yep.
And then the best part about being Warlock, and because I was leaning into the whole like Pokemon thing, and so if you go Genie Warlock, another thing you get at first level is you can go into your little genie thing, and so I'm a little genie thing. I think it was like some kind of Pokeball like thing, and my dad wore that. But when you're in the genie lamp, you can like hear everything outside of you and everything. And then my bear just knew that it would just basically walk around with this Pokeball, and then it knew that as soon as like shit went down, all it had to do was break this thing, and then I would pop out of it. And then it would be a chain. So like my dad bear would summon me, and then I would do another summon, and it'd be like this like summon chain.
The flavor is so good. Oh, the Rangers I've played have been much more traditional, I think.
Yeah, fair.
And I've played 2, and the one I played was a monster hunter lizard folk. I don't remember his name for the life of me for some reason, but I played them very much like I am a professional at surviving in the wild, and like I was my buddy Adam Macwa was running a D&D game for a lot of new players who hadn't played before. They kind of had me in as the professional example, I suppose. Oh, punching my microphone. And so yeah, I created this ranger. I was like, he's very traditional, like I hunt monsters, I'm an adventurer, like just to kind of give that like stereotypical, this is kind of like what D&D is kind of thing. So he wasn't very memorable to me, as you can tell. But there was another guy who was much more memorable. His name was Yano. He was a Swarmkeeper Furball Granger. and his swarm was a swarm of moths. And this was when the UA was first put out for Swarm Ranger. I was like, I love this idea. I'm gonna go with this.
Yeah.
So he was just like biology. Like the campaign was a university of magic. So we were all students or teachers or whatever attending this university, and I made my guy like a biology student, like outcast, like didn't really blend in with anybody. And he like had a fascination with studying mushrooms. So, like that's what his major was in the study of mushrooms. That was his thesis. And Michael, you brought up earlier that you had like there was a special member of a swarm. I also had a special member of my swarm. He was like, all these moths were just these like traditionally like gray moths, but then there was one black moth in there that always just like flipped me off and just like cussed me out. And like Nick, our DM Nick, he was role playing this moth, and it was like, no, fuck you, little Gary. You're such an asshole.
I love it.
But
That's so good.
And Yano ended up dying when we discovered that the university had an underground necromancy school. And we were like, we got to report this thing. And I got killed by a vampire spawn. So when he died, my moths just cocooned me in a silk coffin. And he stayed that way until the end of the campaign when we were able to true resurrect him.
I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, I did like that guy. He was very fun to play. Yeah, the Swarm Keeper, I loved that. It was so good.
I want to play a Swarm Keeper so badly.
That
Like,
sounds so fun.
like I just kind of want to be a beekeeper.
Yeah.
Just, or just like have a swarm of ravens that I know Christy would like absolutely die to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Like she would be all over that.
So do you guys have any ideas about how to go creating an interesting Ranger character? I mean, after all these stories, I'm sure you guys do.
I feel like our Rangers are definitely not the traditional kind of Ranger that you want to create. Like mine was a newspaper editor and Adrian's was a 6-year-old child. So like,
and mine was a biology student.
Yeah. So like, I feel like our examples are a little bit silly compared to what most people would necessarily want to be.
Right.
I will add to this. Do you mind if I turn my camera off and on for like 5 seconds?
You do you.
Will that mess everything up? Oh, there you go. I just get my name.
Yeah, there's his name. Look at that. Ooh.
Adrian Kieda.
Bam, 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 bam.
What
Are you like, what, Adrian, what are you doing?
This is staying in, by the way.
What?
This is staying in.
Okay, great. I just want to change the fucking batteries in this camera. I mean,
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, there was a second there I thought you were just gonna like you were changing into something or just like we're gonna have to mark this
oh
as
my
very,
god, that would be so funny. I just
Like-
come back, I'm in like full Ranger gear. If you want to play a good Ranger, you gotta get into character.
Yeah, this is the one class you must LARP.
This is a great class to LARP. It's the most
Yeah.
practical. You go into the woods with your Nerf,
Nerf gun.
not your guns, your other Nerf, your axes, your daggers,
Okay, yeah.
your bows.
Nerf bow.
All right. Well, I suppose I'll start reading off some of the things that the Xanathar's Guide suggests in terms of making a Ranger character. If we're talking about more traditional, I suppose.
Yeah, because we're not traditional. Like, none of our friends are ever traditional anything.
Yeah.
Like, I was. No, I'm not. Different stories about different characters that I don't need to go into.
All right.
Our current examples are anything but traditional.
But feel free to jump in on any of these things if you have ideas for them. So the first thing the Xanathar's Guide suggests is like your view of the world. Like I mentioned earlier that there's this inherent theme of like civilization versus nature within the Ranger class. So it's like, how do you perceive either side of this coin that you're kind of living on? And what are your opinions of the people who live within the walled towns and cities that you're protecting? Do you actually care about them, or is it more of like a duty thing? You don't really hold a kindness to them. Like, why do you keep the wild safe, or do you even keep the wild safe?
Well, we briefly touched on this earlier. It's like, do you keep the wild safe, or do you keep the people safe?
Or are you literally just surviving on the land? You're just doing you.
I think it's fun just to be a wanderer.
Yeah, that's totally viable.
Are you just vibing? Are you duty bound? Are you some stoner that's just like, oh look, a leaf?
Or
Yeah.
do you have an arrangement with like a nearby town where it's like, if you do this, you are performing us a service, so we will compensate you?
That'd be pretty nice.
Maybe you're friends with a bunch of things in the woods.
Maybe you're friends with a bunch of bears.
Oh.
Or even just the plants. Maybe you're just buddies. Maybe you just love talking to plants.
Gosh, I just had another pop culture idea come into my mind. The oh dear, I don't remember the character's name, but the original Avatar, kind of keeping the balance between the spirit world.
Avatar One.
Avatar One. He was the bridge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like when the two sides were getting at each other, he's like, don't do it, guys. He was that mediator between the spirits and the people.
Yes. Yeah, he you could argue he was like a multi-classed ranger monk.
I mean, of course, he's still monk, absolutely. But
yeah, but like the ranger aspect of like trying to keep the balance is definitely very like very much so Avatar One. Ranger One.
Ranger One. Roger, this is Ranger One.
Ranger. You know the pun on his name is that it sounds close to one, right?
I had a feeling, yeah.
Oh.
Like, what do we call him? One.
First.
Genius.
The next thing Xanathar's guide suggests is considering your homeland. Like, the Rangers very much, like, they've settled down somewhere, or like Adrian suggested, you can be a wanderer. That's totally fine. This is just a recommendation. But there is a sense that a ranger usually has a connection to a location. Like, it might be that they've had to leave their home and set up somewhere else, or they've learned to call the place they're at their home. Did you always live in the wild, or did you move from civilization? So, like, is there a past there? Did that transition change anything within you? Or if you had to make the change, why did you move? And how did the environment, because again, considered terrain like forest, desert, how has that affected you?
Maybe look, it's like a traditional ranger. Usually, like you think ranger, you think of forest. And so maybe just a fun way to make a ranger is to easily just choose one that's from a different kind of area.
Yeah, like we were talking earlier about why didn't we make a ranger that was all about the water in a pirate campaign? That would be a cool character. Like they could have the thrown weapon fighting style and be all about spearfishing.
Ooh, that's good.
Or even like there's some races that are like purely aquatic, which I guess are only useful in an aquatic campaign, but you can be like a ranger of like the coral reef or the swamp. If you're at what's that frog, the friblock?
Oh dear, what are they called?
The grung?
Oh, you're right. The playable one is called the grung. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's that one. There's also bullywugs.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of, I think.
Yeah, they're like the green swampy ones.
Yeah.
What are the
grung is the playable one.
Yeah. What are those weird fish-headed people that are just like?
Oh yeah.
Kuatoa?
Yeah, that's.
I don't know if I pronounced that right.
You know, the Kuatoa. Those guys. That would be it. That would be a hilarious one. It's like you're in amongst like some coral reefs, and like this group of Kuatoa rangers comes up, just like, why are you here? Get away from our coral. We're protecting it.
We are the only things keeping our village safe.
Yeah.
I think it's just because they don't have a neck that they just look like that.
That's yeah.
That are also, but like fish head on a neck is also arguably terrifying.
I don't know. Every time we're doing that, I'm like just picturing him with a knife and fork. It's like, we are defenders. I am a brave warrior.
Oh no.
But yeah, then you underestimate
no.
them, and turns out they're like, level 15.
Yeah.
Got you with their fork and spoon.
They just like disappear and reappear. It's like, why are you stabbing me with a fork?
I had advantage.
Yeah, it's like, you thought this was a spoon. This is my druidic focus.
Oh, wow. So yeah, considering your homeland, you could very well be a Kuo-toa who lived among the reefs, and you're protecting your village. I don't know if they've made that a playable race, but that would be great.
I don't think they have, but like you could easily talk to your DM and just be like, "Hey, I want to be a freaky fish man."
Yeah,
it's on D&D Beyond. Isn't that an official race?
I mean, I don't think so. But maybe they did. There might be a document that's because didn't they introduce something with an otter?
Lokatha. That's what we're thinking. So Lokatha are like catfish. So you could still be a fish man, but not necessarily a Kuo-toa. It's like catfish.
Yes. Okay. So there's still a fish guy option. The third thing Xanathar suggests is your sworn enemy. Why do you have a fascination with a certain type of creature? Did they merely interest you? Do they have interesting cultural practices or language that you just wanted to keep learning? Or did you hear stories about them and sought them out to learn firsthand? Did they affect your life somehow, either for the better or worse? The books continually say it's like your favored enemy, but I like to consider it's like maybe it's just a type of creature you had an interest in. Because considering it sworn enemy is usually like they've attacked our village over and over again, or they killed my family. It just kind of plays into the tropes over and over.
Yeah.
Or it could be the thing that shaped your life, like a bear being your father.
Yeah, you're just interested in bears.
Yeah.
Side note.
Yeah, go for it.
A lot of the people in that campaign were bitten by werebears. So Adrian in particularly was a triple bear.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It was very confusing being a werebear shifter when I said that I'm turning into a bear and I knew what I was talking about, and I had to be very specific.
Like, which bear are you turning into?
Wow. But the example I was going to give is like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings could have considered his favorite enemy to be elves, right? Because he fell in love with an elf, he knew elven language.
That's true.
He wasn't fighting them, but he had an interest in a culture that wasn't his originally.
He was a weeb.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Yeah. Elrond is king of anime.
Oh my God.
Oh. But yeah, so considering what your relationship to the culture or creature type of your fascination is, if it's something more aberration or undead, it's likely it might be more of that sworn enemy type thing. But if you're going something that's more
necrophilia is a thing, so
okay, well, anyway. Point being, if it's something sentient and can be reasoned with, it doesn't inherently have to be like a enemy.
It could. I feel like fascination might be a better word than enemy.
Yes. Yeah. Your favored cultural fascination. Anyway.
Yeah. Or it doesn't even have to be a fascination. Maybe it's neither a fascination nor is it your enemy. It's just that you live in this forest and it's surrounded with this particular creature and you don't really care for it. You just know everything about it because you see it every single day.
What
favored annoyance?
Your favored inescapable fact.
You're like, yeah, I didn't choose to know all this information about, this specific creature. I just see it every day in my home.
So there's an example of someone who was writing a paper about crocodiles, and as they're writing this paper, they realize, hey, wait a minute, this is two different species, and then they end up changing their paper to be that, and then they suddenly become the expert on this particular subject, even though they might be a microbiologist. They're now the expert on this particular species of crocodile because they're the only person who's actually ever written anything about it. It's like, I didn't mean to become an expert on crocodiles, but I guess I am now.
Yeah.
That would be a hilarious character to play, actually.
Just coincidentally the expert, just because it was like a side tangent of research you had to do.
Yeah. Everyone's like, this guy knows about beholders. Like, no, I know one fact about beholders. Leave me alone.
But that's one fact more than we knew.
I know one obscure fact that I guess is kind of useful, sort of.
Oh my gosh. If your favorite, you have your favorite enemy, and then everyone's like, you're the expert, what do we do? Go for the eyes?
Brilliant.
Just brilliant.
Just totally unconfident, or non-confident, unconfident. Just unconfident in your knowledge of it. You just happen to keep getting lucky.
I feel like that kind of describes all of my knowledge in general.
Failing upwards. Some quick little questions to throw in on the end. So, how did you become a ranger? These aren't Xanathar's suggested, by the way. These are just my own questions. So, how did you become a ranger? Did someone teach you how to live in the wild, how to fight and hunt monsters or beasts? Or in the case of Michael, did you have a conclave? Why did you become an adventurer? Like, why were you forced to leave home? As a solitary type of character, a ranger might find it difficult to rely on others. So what would make you seek a group of people out? Is something threatening your home? Like, or have you received some sort of summons? Or is a conclave convention happening and it's not in your local area it's this time, so you got to go out and, be safe. Yeah, and then what do you have a memento that you keep as a hunter? Like, do you have some sort of wearable trophy, or do you keep something from a hunt or a valuable trinket from the culture that you have deemed your inescapable fact of life?
So Benvale, the little goblin, he had a journal that he kept that he would use to write his like editor's notes and like other things. He like skinned a wild pig for the leather for it. So like that was his like trophy / memento of his like hunting experience, because he was a hunter. Like that was his thing. Like he picked all the things that would make him good at hitting really hard. So he's like, I want a memento of that.
I think you're muted, Adrian.
Adrian,
Adrian,
you're muted.
You're muted.
We can't hear you. What happened? Oh no.
Where's his voice? He's freaking out.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh. You're
I'm muted.
There we go. There you are.
I'm here. Muted? How long was I muted for? I wasn't muted. I don't know what happened.
Oh, that's funny. Well, you're here now. What's up?
Great. I was just saying it'd be cool if you mix your like that trinket idea and with your favorite enemy in with like the way that you fight. Like, let's say if your favorite enemy is like a saber-toothed tiger, and maybe like your weapons are like two like knives or like two, you're dull wielding something that you forged from like the teeth of saber-toothed tigers or something.
Ooh, saber-toothed daggers.
Yeah, saber-toothed daggers.
I like cool. That.
It's often in D&D, and usually happens later on, but you'll slay a beast and you'll hire someone to make a weapon out of it.
Yeah, Frank, the topic of crafting in D&D is a topic all on its own, because there are not good crafting rules in D&D.
Well, crafting is it depends on their DM. Like if they're all for it, then great. If they're not, then it's just going to be a bitch of a time.
Yeah, I mean, I've found supplements that I use, but there's so many rules, and it's just like, how do I dumb this down to use the bits that I actually find useful?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, look at they have artificers now, which is kind of like a little crafting specialist.
Mm-hmm. That's
They
true.
make things eventually.
Do you guys have any final notes on like creating rangers or any ideas people should consider with their character creation?
I mean, I think the reason why someone who would be a particularly solitary character, the reason why they would ever join a group is a very important one. Like you touched on it before, but just recently. But I think that one is one of the more important things. Like, why is this character who's typically like by themselves, why do they suddenly need help if they're supposed to be some sort of expert in their field?
Right.
Of grass.
And that's something I often come back to is find the way to say yes, right? Because that's a typical problem a lot of beginner players might have. They want to create the edgelord, like lone wolf type character, and a ranger is ripe for that type of archetype, I guess. But it's just like find the way to say yes, to want to be part of the group. And maybe it's as simple as the party hired you to join them, because rangers are natural guides, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you might just kind of stick with them just because it's convenient for a while, and then you learn to love them.
There you go. Easy in. You got hired.
You got hired.
With the ranger again, just going back to Beastmaster, it's another bag of beans, but I think it's fun to think about what your relationship to your beast is, because I think there's like a whole thing there that you can have, because your beast stays with you. Well, I guess you can swatch them out, but for the most part, maybe you'll have like, even if you are swapping them out, maybe different beasts that are like different, they like, are there different kinds of companions to you. I think it's cool to have like a backstory for like your relationship with that beast. I think it's fun to role play as well if you have that, just to like, you can just kind of have little aside scenes with yourself.
Like going to go eat a snack.
Yeah, whatever it is.
It's true too, because I mean, considering that you can now change their form, it's much easier to have like a connection to my cat as opposed to the multifaceted spirit of air that I can summon.
Yeah.
Any final notes?
I think we pretty much hit the nail on the head.
All right. Then in that case, I'm
surprised you didn't like pick up on my expert in your field joke, because rangers, they have a certain terrain they like fields.
Can you keep explaining it?
I did not pick that one up at all.
Yeah, that's too sad. All right.
That's all right.
Note taken.
Hey, a ranger might not be the greatest class to be the jokester, but I gotta ask you guys, why should people play a ranger? Do you have any critiques about the class? And I know I do.
Well, barring the fact that Player's Handbook version of the Ranger is garbage in most circumstances. If you play the Tasha's version, you'll have a blast of a time, especially when you reach level 10 where you can just disappear and be everywhere at once. And just like do tons of damage and be very good at like being the nature guy.
Yeah, I think playing the original Ranger just can be really frustrating. And I did play an original Ranger back in the day, and it just can be really frustrating because you have these abilities and like you want to use them, but you can't because it's just not relevant right now. And I feel like you feel that way a lot, and it's like, just not the most exciting thing in the world. But then you go to Tasha's, and it is just so much more fun because now you can actually use your abilities.
Mm-hmm. And a reason to play Rangers is like they truly are like really good at combat. Like if you want to have a class that just feels martially superior, like a ranger isn't a bad choice. Not to mention they are versatile in their abilities when you consider like exploration. However, I feel a lot of DMs don't really lean on that pillar of adventure as often as social interaction and combat.
But if you have a DM that's very big in combat, then Ranger is a very fun class to play.
Mm-hmm. And out of the two original classes, I would have chose Hunter myself, like just because Beastmaster at the time wasn't as balanced, and the Hunter just was like, yeah, you can add extra damage to things, or you could do extra attacks to mobs. Like it just sounded like it was more well put together than Beastmaster at the time. But everybody loves Beastmaster. It is what it is.
I love Beastmaster. I think if you want to play a character that has an animal companion, which, like, why wouldn't you? There's so many cartoons that do that. I think it's super fun to do. And that's the only way to do it. Well, now you have Artificer, but originally, the only way to do it.
And in the Unearthed Arcana, they have Draken Warden, which is supposed to be coming out in the next book. Oh. I believe it's called like Fizbane's Treasury of Dragons,
yes,
or something like that. In the Unearthed Arcana version, they had you had a tiny dragon friend that would help you, basically be like an animal companion, but a dragon. I'm not sure what they have decided to do with that yet, but it's going to be in the new book, so
that's cool.
If you want to have a pet dragon and basically be Daenerys from Game of Thrones, something I've also never watched, you can do that.
I'm with you on that one, Michael. I've still yet to watch it. But yeah, in terms of critiques, like we've given a lot of shit to the Ranger from the Player's Handbook, and the reason why those first level features favored Natural Explorer and
favored enemy.
Yeah, the reason why they're not so great is because it requires, like, a lot of people have the tendency to, like, I just make characters in their spare time, you know? It's just like, I quickly put together a character and I'm going to play them at some point because I think they're a really cool concept. With the Ranger, it's inherently tied. You have to have the conversation with the DM. It's like, what are the terrains that we're going to be exploring in this game so I can feel useful and actually use my abilities? Or what enemies are we going to come across? And that eliminates an element of surprise for the DM, right? Because you have to be like, well, we're going to use a lot. There's going to be some undead. There's going to be some aberrations. It's like, well, I mean, yeah. Otherwise, I'm just going to choose some humanoids because I know we'll come across some. But even then, it's only a couple of types, right? Maybe you say gnolls and maybe you say elves. You're not going to fight a lot of elves, and maybe gnolls don't come up at all. But yeah, so you have to know a lot more about the campaign, because that lizard folk ranger I played, I was like coastal, and I don't even remember, I think I said undead for my hunter type, and we were inland in mountains, and I was like, oh, there goes my natural explorer.
My feature.
Yeah,
it's too specific too quickly.
Yes. Yeah. But the Tasha's ones make it feel more generically useful in situations that aren't tied to location or situation. So
yeah, it's more about like just being good at exploring as opposed to being good at the specific part of nature.
Yeah.
Which doesn't work, turns out.
And
in most campaigns.
And a lot of those natural explorer bonuses you get are things a lot of DMs are like, man, travel is so boring. How do I make travel more interesting? And meanwhile, Ranger's like, I need this travel to happen so I can use these things. And meanwhile, everybody else is like, we get it. We're going to get there fine because you're a ranger. And we're in this terrain. Yeah, but you can make those features feel useful if you collaborate with the DM. But now with Tasha's, it doesn't have to happen as much.
Thank goodness. Yeah, and then also in the original one, all your friends are getting these sweet features, or like doing cool stuff, and you're like, hide in plain sight. Like, let's cover. Hey guys, I learned how to cover myself with leaves, and then your fighter's like, I learned how to fucking do all these extra attacks, and you're like, leaf cover.
You just like slam yourself down in the mud, roll around a bit in the leaves, and then you just go like hide and curl up in a ball. Leaf cover.
So lackluster.
Oh boy. Well, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rank this class? 1 being you wouldn't recommend, 2 being it's a boring class, 3 it's not your first choice but can be fun, 4 you recommend the class, and 5 Rangers are your favorite class.
I would say a 3. Like, I played it, it was fun, and I would recommend it, but it's also not my first choice. But that's also because I'm a spellcasting kind of guy. Like, I'd rather be pew pew magic than pew pew oh.
I don't know. I feel like I'd put them all the way up at a 4.5. I feel like it's a class that I've played more often than other classes. And generally speaking, I really enjoyed it. I don't think I've ever, playing a Ranger, I've had a huge impact on encounters, but I've had a lot of fun playing a Ranger. And I think I've also, the reason it's 4.5 is I think that you having a lot of fun as a Ranger does depend on your DM and like the setting that you're playing. But it can be super fun.
And you've also had the experience of playing like multiple different types of versions of Ranger too. Like you've played the original Player's Handbook, you played the Unearthed Arcana version. Eventually, you're probably going to play the Tasha version properly.
Yeah, I slid into Tasha's a little bit with the end of that because I like pulled some like Nature's Veil. I was like, just gonna take that optional feature. Thank you.
Did you ever use that?
Nope, I think I forgot about it because I had so many summons to deal with.
And I think I would give this class a 3. It's not my first choice, but it can be fun, and I've had fun with like that Swarm Ranger, for example. But yeah, again, kind of like Michael, I'm a spellcaster main, known spells,
Like I want to play another Ranger.
Like, we're just talking about known spells. And I don't know why known spells are so good because you don't have to think about what the hell your spells are. They just are your spells.
If you're the kind of person that doesn't like to think, I understand. I totally get it. But I am always thinking.
I think this is just like highlighting how different a play style that Adrian and Denny have.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's fair.
Which is funny considering, like, with how creative you are, Adrian, I would think your mind would always be going, but maybe that's the secret to being truly creative is you just gotta not think for a while.
Well, I think it might even also just be you pick a thing and you stick with it.
Well, commitment. I guess that does make sense. And
I think it's fun to have like, your known spell list or like find new ways to use them maybe. But I don't have to be like, I think the real difference isn't the thinking part. I think the reason I love known spells is because I hate reading. I don't want to open up the spell book and read new spells. I love the ones I have. I know them and I want to stick with them.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense because I know a lot of spells at this point. So yeah, okay, yep,
fair.
That's fair.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Oh, well, thank you both for joining me on this conversation of Rangers. But before we move on to the listener question, I have a bonus question for you guys. So many people often pick the Ranger class because they love the idea of having an animal companion, as we've talked plenty much about today. If you could have an animal companion, what kind would you have? And
dog.
Okay. Did you say dog?
Yes.
You can do that right now, Michael. You can go get a dog.
I'm well aware of this. Let me live my fantasies.
I was about to say as well that it can be fantastical, but Michael, okay, I got to ask you this. What kind of dog?
Oh God. just the goodest boy.
I would like to be a swarm keeper of puppies.
Oh, that's really nice.
Oh my God, I would cry. Oh my God.
Oh man.
got fun.
Sorry,
here.
now I'm just thinking about having a swarm of puppies. Oh my gosh.
Oh. What about you, Adrian?
This question is so hard. I feel like I feel like I just want a normal animal that's like normally super vicious that I can just like tame to be like kind and like a part of society. Like even I know I keep talking about bears, but I would love to have just like a polar bear, like this massive ton of muscle, this huge powerful bear, but it's very well trained and it's my animal companion. It's very delicate. And imagine our Instagram account, me and a polar bear. We'd have a whole Instagram account of just these like cute selfies as we like travel the world.
I'd like to slightly change my answer. Dire wolf.
Okay.
Mostly because like I know they're big, so I can ride into battle, but also it's just so much pupper to love. Like all at once.
Yeah.
It's a big dog.
Yeah. And I just want them to think that they're a lap dog.
If you're gonna go pupper, go big pupper, right?
Exactly. I want you to crush me with your love as well.
Yeah.
As I try to crush you back.
Adrian, I feel like like if I could choose one for you, I would have chosen that the animal that oh dear, the head cleric in your campaign for like animal creatures.
Oh my god.
What
is
Kwoka?
Kwoka? What's
Kwoka?
Yeah,
Kwoka?
the asshole throw my children at predators one that smile for photos.
What?
Yeah, have I just taught you a fact about those creatures? Oh,
Yeah.
It's like
yes.
super out of focus, but
There it is.
what a cute. Adorable.
Oh wait, Kwokas don't really have any predators.
Well, not anymore. Well, also they don't have any kids.
Oh,
this is getting dark.
on that topic, there's a similar fantastical animal. I remember we were having this conversation at breakfast with I think Dallas and Christy were there, and then we were looking at like adorable fantastical animals. And there was one that I loved. It was like a rabbit. I think it had wings and it had like a narwhal horn.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Crud. What is it called? My buddy Ryan actually had one in my previous campaign as his familiar.
Oh, cute.
I don't remember.
I don't
They have
have
a crazy name that is not easy to remember.
It's like I just bought The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and I don't remember what it's called.
Almirage?
Almirage, yes.
Almirage. Cute.
And in my example for this answer, I'd put like owlbear, but I'm like, no, wait, I have a different answer. I think a displacer beast would be a freaking sweet pet.
Yes.
Holy shit.
That would be an awesome. Or a blink dog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just disappears and reappears.
Oh my god. He's like taking your newspaper, disappearing into another dimension. You're like, where's my paper?
And then he just pops up right beside you, just like, here it is. Ha ha ha.
But you can't have it, and he's gone again.
My shoes! They're always in another dimension.
Oh, geez. Well, thank you guys for participating in that bonus question. That was really funny. But perhaps we should move on to our listener question for this episode. This is Question Dicely, our chance to hear from the listeners. And today's question was submitted by Laura. Oh dear, I misspelled her name. Laura K483 on Twitter. But she did submit this question on the Dicely D&D Discord server, so be sure to head on over there so you can submit your own questions and hang out with us in the chats and stuff.
Cool.
And the question that Laura has given us today is, what is your most and least favorite tropes in D&D? For example, the whole bards want to fuck everything tripe.
I think I do. That is one of my least favorite ones. The whole bards want to fuck everything thing.
Like just do music and stop fucking people.
But also like I think in terms of least favorite, oh no, I had it and it disappeared. Come back to
My
me.
least favorite. What about the cleric that just wants to convert everyone to their crazy cult?
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's in that same vein, the paladin who's all just like, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't do that illegal thing. That's illegal.
Like,
Like,
okay,
all right,
Dad.
I get it. You're lawful good. Shut up. Conversely, one of my favorite ones is big, dumb, and strong. Like I'm playing a paladin in a campaign with Ryan Worthing, where he's 20 strength, like 16 charisma, 6 intelligence. He's big, dumb, and pretty.
Being dumb never gets old in D&D.
It doesn't. It's so much fun.
It's so
Like,
fun.
Just playing a stupid character in general is just it can lead to some fantastic roleplay moments.
Oh yeah.
And also just like,
And then you get dominated and kill your party, but we don't have to talk about that.
that happens a lot.
Yeah, like another one I really love that I see a lot is just like a tiny person that's super strong.
Yes.
Like a tiny barbarian.
Or like just tiny and also just very angry.
Yeah, or tiny and angry.
Like a chihuahua.
Do you have one that you don't like, Adrian?
No, the only one that came to mind was like the cleric that's just like, come join my cult. It's like I talk to people all the time in real life. Like I don't need more of that in D&D.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as a cleric lover, I usually try not to include that in my cleric roleplay at all. It's like, I'm not out here trying to convert everybody. I'm just trying to be the best cleric of this god I can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite tropes for D&D is like DM plot twists, like just any moment where you can just like throw everything upside down for the players. It's just, oh my god. Always seeing players' reactions to plot twists is so amazing. And I think one of my least favorite tropes, God, I don't really know what my least favorite would be.
Oh, I thought of another one.
I go for it. I'm still thinking.
So someone sent me a message the other day, and it was like a screen cap of someone's conversation, and it was like, hey, I want to do a campaign. I want you to think of a character that, and so help me God, if you make a character that can do 1,500 damage by level 3, I will murder you. And if you make Dr. Farts, who was raised by fart goblins, I will murder you. So somewhere between those two extremes. And like
Dr. Farts.
And I'm like, you know what? That's reasonable. Like, but the extreme of the like, I'm a power gamer that has managed to figure out how to do this like really niche thing by like second level, and I can now do like 10,000 damage in one turn. Like, I don't like that. I think that kind of is just not my favorite.
Yeah, I off the top of my head, there's just not any tropes that I'm not like being like, I'm extremely I think I laugh at most things, but
yeah.
And thankfully I play in groups that are like really good at playing, so I don't think anything has ever like affected me personally, really, in that kind of sense.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's affected you personally.
I know it. It's the one I've created. It's known spells.
I mean,
that's not a trope. That's a feature written in the book.
I am making it a trope.
That is just a fact of life, Denny.
Known spells.
Like, comment, and subscribe if you also don't like tropes, like known spells.
If you hate tropes, you're gonna hate this.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna love me. Oh, wow. Oh boy. known spells really aren't that bad. They're just not for me.
This is huge vendetta you have, Nettie, against known spells. Like, I feel like you've blown it out of proportion. Like, you're like really out against them.
Like,
It's a trope to me.
you've mentioned it in multiple podcasts.
It's
not even necessarily.
like,
necessarily just like the ones that have to do with known spells. Like, I think you talked about it during your cleric one too at one point.
like this is basically like, if I'm gonna be known for a niche, it's gonna be, this is the guy that hates known spells.
I hope so.
Oh wow. Oh gosh. Well, Laura, I hope that answered your question about some of the tropes that we like and dislike in D&D. And Michael and Adrian, this is kind of bringing us to the end of this episode of the podcast today.
Oh, wow. I didn't talk for 3 hours this time.
We got
well, we're getting there.
That's all right. Oh, boy. We're going to be wrapping up here. So thank you both for joining me on the show. And at this point, I'd like to give you both the chance to promote any social media or any projects that you're working on. So let us know where people can keep up with you.
I'm a fairly normal person. Like, I'm a normie.
Also, I swear to goodness, if you try and promote Dicely again during this,
watch me. Suggest you listen to an actual play podcast that happens on Twitch that I highly recommend you listen to because it's full of very talented people.
Well, at least give us the name then if you're going to do it.
Play Dicely.
Yay!
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. You can, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Pishy4, but like I don't really post very much.
But hey, I mean, if you hit him up and like talk about D&D, I'm sure Michael will hit you up back. He likes to send me a lot of memes.
That's true. Michael's a meme machine.
I like to consider myself a meme curator. I know what people like, and I'm better than a bot.
That's true. Personalized memes. That could be a whole thing you do.
Maybe. All right,
I was going to say, this podcast is going to come out at a very special time because it's coming out on the 29th. It's going to come out days before we release probably like a video and photos and lots of content of us carving the entire fourth generation of Pokemon.
Oh.
Yeah, very exciting. It's today Saturday, so tomorrow I'm going to a farm. We're going to get 100 pumpkins, bring it home. I'm almost got all the stencils done. And then we're going to carve all the Gen 4 Pokemon, which is super exciting because the Gen 4 game comes out next month. Diamond and Pearl, the remakes. Do they come out next month? Come out in November, right? Yeah. So yeah, you can drop on to Adrian Forever, which is right there. That's my Instagram. Or I think on YouTube I'm just It's Adrian. But you can just get through everything from Instagram, and you can follow the project, post updates. And by the time you watch this, it's probably days before it's like going live. And then if you live in Toronto, you can just swing by my place and check them out.
Wow. You know what? I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast before. Like over the last, what's it been, 4 years? You've done.
This is our 4th year doing it.
Yeah. You guys have been carving the pumpkins of every Pokemon within a single generation.
Yeah. Every year for 3 years. This is our 4th year. We're doing Gen 4. It's gonna be a riot. It always is a riot. But this year we're gonna be so organized. No idea. It's gonna be a flawless. The first year was total chaos. This year it's gonna be a flawless
Adrian,
process.
You've been saying that every year since, and it's been total chaos every year since.
This year is so much better. The stencils are they're gonna be done today. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Several weeks in advance.
Well, I suppose I'd better let you get to that then. So I'll close off this episode then. So for anybody who'd like to keep up with the Speak Dicely podcast, you can follow my social media. I am Dicely D&D on basically everything. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and now TikTok, where I've been having a lot of fun creating funny little memes and putting up little snippets from Play Dicely. And I've started also putting up the intro series from the YouTube channel. So you want chunks of how to play D&D, but not the full series? Go there, check it out. And if you'd like to submit a question for the Speak Dicely podcast, you can send me an email to dicelychannel@gmail.com, or once again, join me on the Discord Dicely D&D server, and you can find our Question Dicely text channel where you can submit your questions there as well. And that's about all the time we have for today. So thank you once again, Adrian and Michael, for coming on the podcast. This was a blast.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
And for everybody out there, thank you for tuning in. My name is Teni, and I will speak Dicely with you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This episode of the Speak Dicely podcast was produced and edited by myself, Teni Brant, and the intro and outro music were created by Salik Brant. Thank you for the support, and we'll see you next time on the Speak Dicely podcast.